Brace yourselves. What I'm about to tell you sounds like pure fantasy, something ripped straight from the pages of the boldest thrillers, but it actually happened, shattering every conventional notion. Picture this. A summer afternoon, bathed in warm sunlight, the Manhattan sky a clear, brilliant blue, not a single cloud in sight, promising utter serenity. New York's business world seemed to be immersed in its usual hustle and bustle, millions of transactions flying by every second, yet deep within this relentless machine, a strange calm settled, an almost lulling quietude after a series of turbulent events. Then, without warning, without a single premonitory sign, it wasn't a sudden deafening clap of thunder that shook the city. No. What erupted was something far more fundamental, far more devastating to the very core of the financial world. A full-blown earthquake shook Wall Street. But these weren't physical tremors rattling the ground. It was a shiver, a seismic ripple, running through the invisible yet resilient walls of the global financial system, right to the bedrock of its age-old dogmas. Was the familiar, painstakingly built, seemingly unshakable world of big finance, this colossus, finally beginning to crumble, slowly but inexorably, under the weight of internal contradictions and an external, unknown force. It was mid-June, 2023. At first glance, it was an ordinary, unremarkable summer, promising only hot days and perhaps the usual seasonal slowdown in business activity. Economists and analysts seemed to be catching their breath after a series of crises and geopolitical upheavals. The market was in a state of relative, even deceptive, calm. But it was precisely then, at this moment of apparent absolute peace, that a merciless, deafening blow struck, sudden and utterly unexpected, like lightning hitting a clear sky in the world of global finance. Those invisible yet strong walls of Wall Street, the holy of holies of global capital, its impregnable fortress, trembled to their very foundations. This wasn't panic, nor a price collapse, but something far more subtle yet profound. A tremor, not caused by a physical impact, but by an unseen wave that swept through the corridors of power and influence. What had caused this titan to shake so violently? It was a rumor that, with lightning, almost frightening speed, transformed into a chilling, undeniable fact, seeping into the most exclusive boardrooms and instantly spreading across the globe, leaving a trail of bewilderment and anxiety in its wake. Imagine the scene. Vast trading floors, typically buzzing with the clamor of brokers and traders, suddenly fall silent. Monitor screens flicker with numbers, but people's gazes are locked on one another, revealing disbelief and confusion. This news stunned everyone, throwing even the most astute analysts and seasoned market sharks. Those kingpins who seemed immune to even the most unpredictable turbulence and always found a way out, completely off balance. Their faces, usually inscrutable and composed, now betrayed pure astonishment, bordering on shock. "This simply cannot be. We don't live in a fictional world," they whispered, feeling the icy, piercing tendrils of change, as if alive, reaching out from the very heart of their conservative, deeply traditional world, threatening its established order. What was this powerful and unprecedented shock, capable of shaking the centuries-old foundations upon which the entire modern financial architecture was built, and making even the most steadfast and unwavering among them falter? This question hung in the air, like a sword of Damocles, demanding an immediate, comprehensive answer, threatening to dismantle everything that had been so meticulously constructed. It was precisely then, when no one could have conceived of such a turn of events, when everyone merely anticipated a continuation of old proven strategies, that the chief arbiter of global assets, the one who seemed the embodiment of stability and tradition, made his unexpected and decisive move. Like a grandmaster making a final, fateful move in a game, a move that not only changes the rules, but flips the entire chessboard upside down. It was a gesture that demonstrated power and control can be redistributed in the blink of an eye. The very ground trembled beneath the feet of those who had grown accustomed for decades to the immutability of old financial dogmas, to the unshakable nature of their power, to the predictability of all processes. This day, I am deeply convinced, will go down in the annals of human history. But how will it be recorded? as the dawn of a new era where all players, big and small, stand equal before future challenges and opportunities. Or, far more ominously, as the moment of ultimate subjugation for everything and everyone to a ruthless yet renewed old system that merely changed its facade to become even stronger and more powerful. That is the real crux of the matter, and therein lies the central all-consuming intrigue that will shape our future. But the shock wasn't so much caused by the event itself, which was certainly extraordinary, as it was by the identity of its initiator. After all, his name was synonymous with tradition, unshakable stability, and reliability, carved into the granite of the financial world. He was a man whose reputation was built on conservatism, on caution, on adhering to time-tested rules. No one, absolutely no one among experts, analysts, or even the most informed insiders could have foreseen or even surmised that this titan of the old school, whose roots stretched back deep into the soil of centuries-old conservatism, into the very foundations of traditional investment thinking, would take such an audacious, almost sacrilegious step. It was akin to ancient institutions whose foundations seemed unshakable, suddenly and unanimously deciding to reconsider their most fundamental dogmas, defying not only logic, but their own past, all their principles, like the staunchest pillar of an old faith suddenly renouncing its religion. Who then is this man, possessing such power and authority, capable of such a sudden and massive upheaval that shook the entire financial world to its very core? And so, on that truly historic day, the 15th of June, 2023, an event occurred that forever altered the course of financial history. The financial behemoth known as Blackrock, a name that has inspired awe for many decades, like an ancient, unyielding colossus standing guard over global capital, filed an application for a spot Bitcoin ETF. This act was tantamount to a thunderous declaration, a resounding slap in the face that upended conventional notions of what was permissible, of what was possible, in the conservative, heretofore impregnable, and seemingly watertight world of investments. This was no mere formal document, no routine bureaucratic procedure lost among hundreds of similar applications. No. BlackRock's ETF application was a strategic gambit, subtly calculated, cold-blooded, and ruthless, played out on the immense multi-layered chessboard of global finance, where trillions of dollars, determining the destinies of entire nations and millions of people, hung in the balance. But what truly lay behind this unprecedented, utterly unexpected move, which, as it later transpired, changed everything, forever? What secret motives drove this financial titan? This news instantly, like a wildfire, became the dominant topic of all discussions, all headlines, pushing aside every other economic news item, like a tsunami sweeping everything in its path, leaving only emptiness behind. The world's most conservative, most influential, and undoubtedly most powerful asset manager had done the unthinkable. What had seemed like mere fantasy, an impossible dream for some and a terrifying nightmare for others, just yesterday. BlackRock, whose name for many decades has been inextricably linked, like a brand, solely with tradition, stability, and ancient time-tested assets, suddenly, without apparent reason, bet on a wild, unpredictable, volatile asset that it had previously scorned, as if it were a leper, something impure and unworthy of attention. It was a turn of events no one could have anticipated. This was an act that flagrantly contradicted years of public statements and the seemingly unshakable fundamental principles they had so strictly, so demonstrably adhered to. Larry Fink, the very architect of the modern financial world order, whose name was synonymous with immutability, stability, and conservatism in the highest echelons of power, had himself once publicly and unequivocally condemned it. His words, delivered from the lofty platforms of global economic forums, from the rostrums of the most prestigious universities, sounded like a final, unappealable verdict against a new, still nascent phenomenon, barely born, that challenged everything familiar and established, threatening their authority. Money laundering index. That's how, contemptuously, unequivocally, and with thinly veiled disgust, he characterized Bitcoin, as if swatting away an annoying, insignificant fly unworthy of serious people's attention. Fink's statements were not merely his personal opinion, they were something far greater. They were an accurate reflection of the collective skepticism of the entire traditional financial establishment, its profound distrust of anything new and uncontrollable. They firmly solidified in the minds of investors and ordinary people alike the image of cryptocurrencies as a tool for dubious criminal operations, as something marginal rather than a legitimate worthy asset capable of finding its place in a respectable investor's portfolio. His stance served as an insurmountable bastion, a powerful wall protecting the old guard from the intrusion of alien decentralized ideas that threatened their power, their monopoly on capital control. For many, his pronouncements were a final irrevocable verdict that once and for all closed the door to institutional capital, leaving not a shred of hope for its entry into the world of cryptocurrencies. He was the unyielding voice of orthodox financial thought, safeguarding established norms from the unpredictable, rebellious crypto-revolution, like a guardian of an ancient treasury. How, then, with such a rigid and uncompromising attitude, could such a radical, complete, and astonishing shift in his views and strategy have occurred? That's precisely why his sudden conversion, this dramatic 180-degree turn, became a shock that seemed to awaken the entire financial world from a long slumber. It became a vivid, undisputed symbol of profound underlying changes that, like hidden currents, were shaking the foundations of the traditional economy, heralding upcoming transformations. How could this be? The emperor of the old financial system, whose words were law and whose throne seemed unshakable and eternal, suddenly, without any apparent reason, decided to lead a crypto-revolution that he himself had so vehemently and ostentatiously condemned just yesterday, declaring it dangerous and harmful. This question loomed large, like an ancient sphinx appearing right on Wall Street, demanding an immediate, comprehensive answer, lest it devour the questioner, leaving them in ignorance and confusion. What truly compelled this mighty titan, this giant of the financial world, to alter his fundamental opinion, to abandon his own convictions, once so fiercely defended, so assuredly declared, which he had instilled in his followers for decades? This was not merely a shift in rhetoric, not a simple change of wording, but something far more profound. It was a radical U-turn in strategic direction, a complete overhaul of the entire doctrine, all the foundational principles of his empire. What was the true motive hidden behind this public penitence, this demonstrative embrace of a formerly scorned asset that now, as if by magic, had become valuable and desired? What hidden mechanisms or colossal, dizzying prospects could have prompted Fink to go against himself, challenging the very image he had so meticulously crafted throughout his career? Was something more at stake than mere money, something more valuable than any capital? Perhaps power itself, dominance in a new, uncharted world. To unravel this financial enigma, woven from paradoxes and secret motives, to penetrate its very essence, we must embark on a deep dive into history, into its very depths, to the root of evil, or perhaps genius, depending on one's perspective. The path to understanding today's motives, to solving this puzzle, lies through a meticulous analysis of the past, through the origins of the Blackrock empire, whose power now dictates global trends, guiding them into desired channels. We need to understand who they truly are, these faceless architects of global capital, whose faces rarely grace the covers of glossy magazines, and from where their almost mystical, all-encompassing power over the world's destinies stems, their ability to influence governments and entire economies. What lies at the very beginning of this colossal, truly legendary story? How did it all begin? At the heart of every great ascent, every powerful surge to the pinnacles of power, usually lies a profound, painful fall that shapes the future leader, tempering their will and character. 1986, the very epicenter of Wall Street. A young Larry Fink, a rising star at the investment bank First Boston, was then at the absolute zenith of his brilliant career. His reputation was impeccable, his name synonymous with success in bond trading. He was renowned for his intuition and ability to foresee market movements. He was a true golden boy of the exchange. It seemed nothing could stop him, no obstacle he couldn't overcome. A great future awaited him, predicted by all his colleagues, but even the brightest stars can be extinguished by a single misstep, by one fatal miscalculation that in an instant wipes away all past achievements, reducing them to nothing. A misjudgment in forecasting interest rates resulted in colossal, catastrophic losses for his bank, shaking the entire market and triggering a chain reaction. A sum of $100 million, astronomical for its time, vanished into the abyss of market fluctuations due to his error, leaving an indelible, bloody mark on the financial landscape like a deep, unhealing scar. This collapse was not merely a financial blow, it was something far greater. It was a public humiliation, shattering not only Fink's career but his self-esteem to its very core, turning him into an outcast, a pariah in a world where reputation was valued above all else. The disgrace was universal, and his name became associated with the company's largest loss in history, becoming a cautionary, tragic legend, a warning to all who were overly self-assured. Fink's trauma, that's how this painful yet formative experience could be described, becoming the cornerstone of his entire future, colossal empire, its invisible foundation. But how, from these ashes of disgrace, from the depths of this humiliation, could a force capable of conquering and changing the world be reborn? It was precisely from the ashes of disgrace, from the depths of personal collapse, from the bitterness of humiliation, that a new, all-consuming obsession was born, becoming his life's purpose, his guiding star. An obsession not merely with earning capital, but with the total management and minimization of all possible risks to ensure that such a thing would never happen again, that no one could ever again level such accusations against him. The pursuit of absolute control over the unpredictable and often cruel forces of the market, its complete subjugation to human will, became his life's credo, his primary goal, his enduring mission to which he dedicated his entire life. He swore such an error, such public humiliation would never again befall him or his future brainchild, which he was already nurturing in his thoughts, building grand plans. This vow, forged in the fires of disgrace, became the driving force that shaped the philosophy and strategy of the entire future, colossal empire he began to build from scratch. Exiled, yet unbroken from the financial Olympus, Fink did not surrender. His ambitions, tempered by pain and humiliation, only grew stronger, hardening into steel, into an indestructible armor. 1988, a seemingly modest yet ambitious firm, bearing an unusual name imbued with hidden meaning, appeared on the horizon of the financial world. Blackstone Financial Management, founded under the aegis of the powerful and already respected giant, the Blackstone Group, became his new refuge, his temporary home, where he could start anew. Stephen Schwartzman, one of Blackstone's founders, saw in Fink not only a talented financier, but an unyielding will for redemption, sensing his potential, his inner fire, which burned brighter than ever. This subsidiary was far more than just another investment boutique on Wall Street trying to find its niche. Their approach to investments was unique, almost revolutionary for its time. Its foundational principle was not to predict the future, to extract maximum profit, but to mitigate its potential destructive blows, to control it and minimize any surprises. Their special sauce from day one lay in an unprecedented, almost paranoid approach to risk analysis, to every minute detail, every potential threat capable of eroding capital. Instead of chasing maximum but risky returns, they aimed for maximum capital protection, its preservation, its multiplication, but without risks. Every investment step was filtered through a multidimensional modeling of potential threats and unforeseen circumstances, like divining the future with a mystical crystal ball. Their early success was built on expertly managing mortgage-backed securities after the savings and loan crisis, at a time when many other companies were failing and collapsing. They became not just investors, but architects of financial stability, offering a unique service to their clients, one previously unheard of in the market. Their foundation was built on principles of prudence, deep analysis, and long-term strategic planning, which became their calling card, their credo. It was this very Fink's trauma, painful and humiliating, that transformed into a prophetic idea, deeply embedded in the DNA of the future empire, becoming its primary driving force. But could this shadow remain in the shadow of external influence forever? However, every shadow, even the most powerful, sooner or later yearns for its own sun to emerge from under external influence and achieve complete independence. By 1994, Fink's subsidiary had grown, gaining incredible strength and its own independent vision for the future, one that diverged from its parent company. Its assets under management already amounted to billions of dollars, and its ambitions stretched decades into the future, beyond the confines of the parent company, towards distant horizons where it envisioned itself as the sole leader. An inevitable conflict of interest was brewing, a classic tale of a son who had outgrown his father and was now desperately seeking his own path, his independence. Stephen Schwartzman and Larry Fink clashed in a fierce battle for control, for money, for the future of the company they had co-created, but now saw from divergent perspectives. Their paths had diverged. The dispute centered not only on the company's shares, but also on its fundamental philosophy, its independent destiny, its self-determination in a world where everyone wanted their slice of the pie. Fink, remembering his past mistake and the painful loss of control over the situation, over his brainchild, did not want a repeat of history where he didn't manage his creation, didn't have full power over it, where his decisions could be challenged. He craved complete autonomy to realize his vision without any external limitations, without external influence, without needing to defer to anyone. Ultimately, after fierce and lengthy negotiations conducted behind closed doors in an atmosphere of the strictest secrecy, a divorce was agreed upon, a strategic and undoubtedly painful decision for both parties. Fink and his partners bought out their stake, paying a substantial sum for the time, $230 million, which was a colossal, almost unfathomable price for independence. Thus, independent Blackrock was born. The Black Rock, a name symbolizing inflexibility, solidity, and eternal strength carved in stone, a name that foreshadowed its power. This moment marked the true birth of an empire, free from external shackles and third-party limitations, ready to conquer the entire financial world to establish its own rules. From that day on, Blackrock embarked on its independent path to global financial dominance, without any compromises, without looking back, only forward to the summit. But what instrument allowed them to achieve such comprehensive power, such sway over the world? Their goal was not simply to manage money, collect interest, and earn fees as thousands of other companies did. Their aim was to manage the future, anticipating its risks and opportunities, controlling every variable, every detail, every possible scenario. It was this all-consuming obsession with risk, this primal, deep-seated fear of a repeat of the 1986 catastrophe, that became the main catalyst. It led to the creation not just of a software tool, but of an entire oracle named Aladdin, possessing almost mystical abilities for prediction and control. Asset, liability, debt, and derivatives investment network, such as its full technical name, concealing its true unfathomable power, its all-encompassing nature. Aladdin doesn't merely analyze countless volumes of data, processing them at incredible speed. It predicts, models, calculates every variable, every possible scenario, offering optimal strategies and ways to circumvent threats. It became the all-seeing eye of the Blackrock empire, its nervous system, its brain, and strategic hub, without which it would be inconceivable, without which it could not function so effectively. Through Aladdin, risk analysis is performed daily for more than $20 trillion in assets, a sum that staggers the imagination with its grandeur, difficult even to comprehend. This amount is equivalent to the economies of several of the world's largest powers combined, eloquently underscoring its colossal, mind-boggling scale of influence and control over global capital. It controls risks not only for Blackrock itself, protecting its assets from unforeseen fluctuations, but also for countless other financial institutions worldwide that rely on it, fully trusting its calculations. From the largest pension funds and sovereign wealth funds to banking giants, from major corporations to government agencies, all rely on Aladdin, entrusting it with their assets, their capital, their financial destinies. This software complex became the foundation of their influence, the source of their almost mystical, all-encompassing power, extending far beyond Wall Street, embracing the entire world. It transformed Blackrock from a mere asset manager into an architect of global financial stability and control, a gray eminence whose decisions affect everyone. It is thanks to Aladdin that they were able to evolve into the shadow government they represent today, invisible yet omnipotent, dictating its own rules of the game. But what will happen when this all-seeing eye turns its gaze upon the wildest, most unpredictable asset, Bitcoin, attempting to tame it? It is precisely this unprecedented capacity for control, foresight, and risk minimization that led them to today's decision regarding Bitcoin. Their interest in cryptocurrencies is no accident. It is a logical continuation of their historical mission of dominance, assimilation of new territories, and expansion of their influence. At first glance, a spot Bitcoin ETF seems merely another standard financial product, nothing more, one of many in the market. But in the hands of Blackrock, this instrument transforms into something far greater. A strategic weapon of capture, a Trojan horse carrying within it not just new opportunities, but complete subjugation. This isn't just a way to invest in Bitcoin, to buy it and hold it. It's a gateway, opening access to colossal, previously inaccessible resources, to an entire ocean of money, to an inexhaustible source of capital. We're talking about trillions of dollars that, until now, have been locked within the traditional conservative financial system, like in an impregnable fortress, with no means of escape. Pension funds, insurance companies, university endowments, major investment funds, all have been waiting, biding their time for the ideal moment, the right instrument that would meet their stringent requirements. They require regulated, familiar, and secure investment vehicles that comply with their strict mandates and rules. Otherwise, they simply cannot deploy funds. A spot ETF provides exactly that. The ability to gain exposure to Bitcoin without directly owning it, without the technical complexities of custody and the risks of loss. It removes technical barriers, custody risks, compliance challenges, and regulatory uncertainty, making it accessible to any institutional investor. For them, it's the equivalent of a magic key, unlocking entry to a coveted crypto treasure trove full of gold, which they have long dreamed of. This is the very bridge that connects the conservative, staid world of Wall Street with the innovative but wild world of cryptocurrencies, taming it. Its emergence changes the rules of the game, transforming a decentralized asset into a centralized, controlled product, subservient to the old system. Blackrock positions itself as the guardian of this bridge, the gatekeeper to digital gold, setting its own undisputed rules, its fees, its terms. They offer not only access but also legitimacy, approval from powerful regulators, which is invaluable for major players eager for official status and recognition. But why did they, specifically, succeed in opening this door when all others before them met with crushing failure? Why Blackrock? This question hangs in the air, like a shadow over the entire crypto industry, leaving a sense of unsaid things, of an incomplete picture. Dozens of companies, from smaller startups to already established and influential players, had filed similar applications for many, many years, trying to break down this wall, to find a loophole. All their efforts were rejected by the Securities and Exchange Commission, better known as the SEC, with enviable persistence and unanimity, each time for the same reasons that seemed unshakable. The SEC was resolute in its refusal, citing manipulation risks, insufficient investor protection, and the imperfections and immaturity of the cryptocurrency market. Their argumentation always boiled down to the market's insufficient maturity and its inability to meet the standards of traditional assets, to their deep ingrained distrust of the new technology. But lo and behold, When BlackRock submitted its application for a spot Bitcoin ETF, the regulator's tone magically shifted, as if by a flick of a wand, as if under a spell. This was no mere coincidence or accident. It was not a confluence of circumstances. It was a manifestation of unprecedented influential power, extending far beyond the ordinary, beyond the simple rules written for everyone else. BlackRock is not just an investment firm, it's a state within a state, possessing its own diplomacy, its own authority, its own laws that it is capable of imposing. Their lobbying efforts amount to millions of dollars annually, directed towards educating legislators and regulators, shaping public opinion, and pushing through their desired decisions. Former BlackRock employees hold key positions in government, the Federal Reserve, and regulatory bodies, creating a powerful, invisible network of influence that permeates all spheres of power. They possess the master key capable of opening any door, overcoming any bureaucratic barrier and legal impediment that stands in their way, like invisible walls. Their negotiating position with the SEC was not that of a petitioner, not someone humbly requesting a favor, but of an equal partner, dictating terms, not asking, authoritative and unwavering in their demands. Their application was not merely a set of documents, but a declaration of intent that was not subject to dispute or lengthy deliberation. It was an ultimatum thrown to the entire world. It was a demonstration that in the highest echelons of financial power, there are unwritten rules and special privileges, accessible only to the chosen few, only to those who wield real power. Their influence extends to the highest levels of decision-making, shaping the very fabric of regulation, its essence, its principles. The SEC, subject to the influence of such giants, was effectively forced to accommodate, realizing the consequences of refusal, understanding that opposing BlackRock would be too costly, that it would mean open confrontation with the most powerful player. But what happened after BlackRock cracked the system, opening this door? After filing the ETF application, Larry Fink took another significant, truly historic step, confirming his power and authority, his ability to influence global processes. His rhetoric regarding Bitcoin shifted 180 degrees, becoming a subject of widespread discussion, astounding everyone with its abruptness, its suddenness. From a money laundering index, Bitcoin suddenly transformed into digital gold, worthy of the world's largest investors' attention, an object of desire that everyone now coveted. These words, uttered by the world's most powerful investor, carried colossal weight and authority, shifting the paradigm of cryptocurrency perception. This was not merely a comment or a personal opinion. It was an unequivocal, loud signal to all of Wall Street, impossible to ignore, heard by everyone. A signal that the game had begun, that it was time to act, to enter the crypto space before it was too late, before others had claimed all the advantageous positions. Traditional banks, hedge funds, institutional investors who had hesitated and doubted for years watched Fink with bated breath, awaiting his signal. His approval was the green light, the sanction they had long awaited to begin their own operations with digital assets, so as not to appear left behind. The market, responsive to the slightest shifts in sentiment and authoritative pronouncements, received clear guidance for action, for a new vector of development, for exploring new horizons. Following BlackRock, other giants of the financial industry lined up, filing their own ETF applications, as if on command, as if an invisible hand guided their actions. It was a domino effect, initiated by one, but the most powerful player on the global financial stage, whose power was undeniable, whose influence knew no bounds. BlackRock wasn't merely entering the market, it was opening it up for legions of its followers, showing the way, paving the road, illuminating it with the light of its authority. It was dictating the terms of a new era, setting standards for all who dared to follow it into this new world, the world of digital assets, a world it was now shaping in its own image. The market's reaction to the BlackRock news was instantaneous and telling, seemingly confirming their dominance, their omnipotence, their ability to influence minds and capital. Bitcoin's price, which had previously been in stagnation and uncertainty, soared on mere rumors of their actions, astonishing with its speed and scale. Price charts became eloquent testament to their power over investors' minds and capital movement, like the market's pulse, reacting to their every word. Even without official ETF approval, BlackRock's mere intention, its application, became the most powerful market driver, lifting it out of stagnation, breathing new life, new hope into it. This wasn't just speculative growth, not a typical market play. It was confirmation of their ability to manipulate and steer the market by their mere presence, by their single application. Their name, their reputation, their perceived influence were worth more than any economic news or fundamental factors. Their word was law, their decision, a directive for action. They demonstrated that they can control entire markets with a single word, a single application, a single gesture, like gods capable of creating and destroying worlds. This display of force was a lesson to all who doubted their dominance and the power of the shadow government that rules the world, sitting in the shadows yet holding all the strings. But what true price will crypto enthusiasts and Bitcoin itself, its original philosophy, pay for this? They don't merely react to the market, adjusting to its fluctuations. They shape it, direct it, subjugate it to their will, like a conductor with an orchestra, coaxing out the desired sounds, creating the desired melody. This power, founded not on direct control or coercion, but on implied authority and universal expectation, is the most formidable, the most insidious. The power of the shadow government manifests precisely in this way. Through a whisper, a hint, a strategically important signal that changes the world, turning it upside down. Cryptocurrencies, originally conceived as a liberation from the traditional system, as a tool of decentralization, have found themselves almost entirely under its influence, like a bird in a gilded cage that sings but is no longer free. So the picture becomes absolutely clear, emerging through the fog of guesses and assumptions. BlackRock did not join the crypto-revolution, as some naively believed, trusting in its independence. It took the helm. They led it, but not to support its spirit of decentralization, its freedom, but to totally control it, completely subjugate it, integrate it into their system. Bitcoin, born as a weapon against the centralized financial system, as a symbol of resistance, itself became its trophy, its valuable asset, its prize, its captive. The instrument of decentralization now serves as a tool for the centralization of power in the hands of a few but powerful players, true puppeteers pulling the strings. This is a historical irony worthy of an ancient Greek tragedy, where the hero becomes a victim of their fate, their destiny, unable to escape it. The system that Bitcoin sought to overthrow has now assimilated it, transforming it into its servant, its instrument, stripping it of its original freedom, its rebellious spirit. This is not a failure of Bitcoin as a technology, as an innovation, but rather proof of the old financial system's indestructible adaptability, its ability to absorb and transform, adapting to any changes. Their goal is not to destroy the existing order, but to dominate, to exert total control over all capital flows, over every dollar, over every asset. Bitcoin, now under their aegis, will become yet another asset in their trillion-dollar empire, managed by the all-seeing Aladdin, their chief weapon. They are not revolutionaries. They are conquistadors, conquering new territories on the map of global finance, expanding their dominion, their power. Their code of wealth is now being inscribed even into blockchain algorithms, subjugating them to their logic, their rules, their all-encompassing control. These events mark a new turn in the centuries-old struggle for control over global finances and assets, for humanity's future, for its destiny. Before us, witnesses to this grand transformation, stands a profound and fateful question, demanding an answer. A question whose echo will resonate for decades, defining the contours of the financial future, its new rules, its new laws. What does this mean for the future? What will be the fate of the soul of cryptocurrencies, their original philosophy, their freedom, their independence? Will this kill the very idea of decentralization, turning Bitcoin into an ordinary controlled commodity, another instrument in the hands of the powerful, another position in their portfolio? Or, conversely, will this institutionalization, this powerful influx of capital, make it stronger, more stable, and more valuable than ever, ensuring its longevity? Will Bitcoin become part of a new, hybrid financial system where old and new merge into a single entity, forming something entirely novel, something we have yet to witness? Or is this merely the beginning of a new phase in the struggle for financial freedom, for true autonomy, for independence from any controllers, for a return to its origins? Whose side are you on in this battle for the future, in this confrontation? The answer to this question will shape the economic landscape of generations to come, influencing each of us, our lives, our well-being. Each of us must decide whose side we stand on in this age-old struggle for control over capital and the future, for our destiny, for our rights. History doesn't wait. It is being made right now, before our very eyes, and every choice matters. Every voice is important. Every person is a part of this process. Understanding these processes is not just a matter of interest, but a vital necessity for everyone who wishes to be the master of their own financial path, rather than a blind hostage to others' decisions, others' games. Thank you for your attention. I hope this story has given you much to ponder.